All right, so we are live. So welcome to a next edition of our Sundays, chat where we discussed things that are, going on in the world. Some of the very obvious things and some not so obvious things. Like, for instance, this particular topic that we'll be talking about today says, dare to take care of the caretaker. And that's one of the topics that I think is the not so obvious one. So I wanted to just bring that to our level of consciousness. And so we can really think about those things and not have the caretakers, and in this instance, the caretakers for special needs people, and how is the situation right now, whether it be COVID, the quarantine, etc., it impacting the people who have to parent or take care of, people with special needs. So that's one of the things that we really wanted to focus on today. So it may not be you, but it could be a family member, it could be a friend. Are we being sensitive enough to their situation? Are we being available to assist if needs be? How are they taking care of themselves? How are they applying self-care? And more importantly, are they losing hope? Right? And how are they being confident that they too can continue during this time of quarantine and even beyond with the adjustments that are needed, right? So who am I? So I'm Judy Ann Chung. I am your Brilliance Activator, your confidence, leadership, and life coach, and also your speaker who help women like you to basically activate your brilliance and soar. So today, to discuss that with me, I have the wonderful Sabrina Thomas. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to punt it over to her so she can just tell you a little bit about herself. And of course, hopefully you guys listened to the intro and you went ahead and you shared accordingly. All right. So thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sabrina Thomas, and I am a mother of two adult sons. And my youngest son, Omar, has special needs. So I instantly became a special needs mom. I am a special needs empowerment coach. I am an author and six-time Amazon bestseller. I am a columnist for two leadership magazines, online magazines, and I'm also an author and a speaker and an author and a speaker and an advocate for all things special needs.
All righty. So I love that. She said all things special needs. So of course you heard that she had, quite a length of breadth of different forms of experience, right? So, but I just love the emphasis on all things special needs, because it made it even more important that I made the right decision when I chose to have her here as a guest to speak about this, right? So, of course, if you know me, you know I love to define things, right? So how do we define special needs? So what I wanted to ask you, Sabrina, is most of the times we've heard the word special needs, right? So,
Yes.
but a lot of people are not very comfortable in truly asking, like, how do we define it? Is it more from medical sense, development sense, emotional, cognitive, physical, behavioral, all of the above? So can you define it for us and for our
Yeah.
listening audience?
Well, you're correct. Actually, it's all of the above because, for instance, my son is autistic,
Okay.
so he instantly has some special needs, and that special needs is a behavioral, that's emotional, it
Mm-hmm,
could be physical.
mm-hmm.
He also has cerebral palsy, which is like basically like brain damage to your fine motor skills. So that's
Oh.
physical. It could be emotional,
Mm-hmm.
it could be cognitive, it could be a delay in learning. So it's kind of like all of the above. You can and people get confused with special needs and then having a disability, because you can have a special need without having a disability, but most people with a disability of some kind that do have special needs. So that's a difference too, and people get confused with that.
Right. But you know what I'm going to ask you to do? That last part that you just said about the difference between a disability and special needs. I just want you to repeat that part of it, because I think it's very important in being able to make that distinction and to decipher it. So would you mind repeating that portion, please?
Yeah, I said there are some people that have a disability. Of course, if you have
Mhm.
a disability, the majority of the people have a special needs. That's why you
Right.
have a disability. But you can have a special need and not have a disability. Example, you can have a learning delay, a
Hmm.
speech delay. That doesn't mean you have a disability, because that speech delay or learning delay could be, you can go to therapy, you can get some tutoring, and
Mhm.
you can be good. A lot of kids starting off in kindergarten, first grade, and they work through that. They don't, advance as far as some other kids, and they need a little bit more help. And then once they're at their level, it's done. But when you have a disability, it doesn't go away. My son's
Oh, okay.
disability is permanent. you know
Right.
it's permanent, so it's not going to go away. I can manage it, and that's what I do with
Mhm.
medication and therapy, but it doesn't go away. You can have a special needs for a temporary, for a short point of time, and then that
Mhm.
special need can be no longer.
Right, right, right. Okay. So I'm very happy that you made that distinction, because I think sometimes, we don't think beyond it. And the reason why I'm pressing that issue is because, or that explanation rather, is because the truth is, if you're not close to a situation of such, meaning if you're not close to having, say, a child or a family member or just a
Mhm.
friend or somebody that you're closely tied with, you may not really recognize some of the things that you need to be sensitive about, your understanding, etc. I'll tell you something. It's not the same example, but
Mhm.
it's an example of awareness. So years ago, many years ago, when my girlfriend was pregnant with her child, right? So her child is about 4 years, no, 2 years ahead of my child. So I thought I was being quite helpful. I try to be there to help her out as a new mom. But it wasn't until I had my child, my son, that I realized, oh my gosh, quite frankly, I sucked. I was so exactly. I thought I was, oh my gosh, I'm helping her and being all these wonderful things. And the truth is, I was not, because I was not aware. I did not have the necessary education,
Okay.
because without education, you cannot act, you cannot modify your behavior, you cannot be as sensitive as you really want to be. And
That
in
is
that
so true.
moment, I recognized, OMG, I could have done so much more for her, right? So even though it's not a situation where it was, a disability, special needs, etc., it
Mhm.
was a situation of awareness, of
Yes.
education, right?
Hmm.
So that helps us to then act differently and
That's
act
right.
appropriately.
It's
So
almost like
that's
when you know better, you do better, right?
exactly. As a matter of fact, for those of you who are listening in the comment right now, I want you to write exactly what she just said. But when you know better, you do
You do
better, right?
better.
So hopefully this will also bring about the awareness. This, one of the purpose of this live is to bring about the level of awareness each time, right? So hopefully that does that. Okay, so let's move on from there, right? So the crux of the matter, and just so you guys know, one of the reasons I decided to do this, because I just became aware, and I was listening to a parent and I was like, oh my gosh. And that's literally how it came into my level of consciousness. And just to see that there's something we need to talk about. All right. So let's move on from there. So it relates to COVID, right? The virus itself, as well as the whole social distancing that was obviously an outcome of the virus in terms of being able to try to control the spreading of the virus, right? How has that impacted your ability to parent as well as, attend to your own self-care?
Okay, you know what? I think for me, and I know a lot of caregivers and people who have parents and caregivers, they have different dynamics for their family in different
Mm-hmm.
situations. But for me, it wasn't all bad at all. I mean, of course, everything shut down. I was furloughed, so I was home at I was furloughed for my part time job, and I was home with my son.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't affect me as far as parenting. There was certain things I just didn't know how to do when it came to the virtual learning and homeschooling, because
Okay.
I know my son, but I'm not a teacher. But I had to realize quick that my son didn't need me to be a teacher. I needed to be his mom. And like everybody else jumped in and like, I don't know how to homeschool. I can't do this. No, 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 no. You don't need to be the teacher. You need to be the parent.
So let's pause right there. Let's pause right there, because that's interesting that you just said that. All right. So here it is. You're being tasked to homeschool him,
Mm-hmm.
but you just said he didn't need you to be this teacher. He needed you to be his mom. So then
Yeah.
how were you then managing being able to teach him? Because you still have to teach him, right? The things that he's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be learning at
Well,
school.
what, and I'm gonna I'm gonna let you know what I really mean by that.
Okay.
When everything shut down, everybody's worried about, oh, I can't teach my son, I can't teach my daughter, and
Mhm.
especially it's harder when you have a special needs child because my son is nonverbal. He can speak, but doesn't have a lot of social skills, and he's limited on his conversation. So I'm
Right.
not sure how he learns,
Hmm.
which is visual. He's visual. I didn't
Okay.
know how to teach him his math homework and his science homework. I didn't know that. So all I did is the best I could. I was his
Hmm.
mom, and
Right.
I just, I just loved him. And I'm going to say that because I just did the best I could. I wasn't trying to be his teacher. I didn't go to
Right.
school to be a teacher. All I was
Right.
doing was being his mom. And I think when you step into that, that's enough. Now I know
Okay.
there's some parents who have older children and they were going to high school and junior high school, and you got to do calculus and algebra and all that stuff. My son fortunately didn't have to do that because I would have been in real trouble. But it was I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I only had to technically homeschool him for 3 weeks. The teacher actually stepped in and did the virtual learning. So I just sat alongside of him, let's set the computer up and just
Hmm.
watch what she did. So that way, right now, when school is over in summertime, I can
Hmm.
then apply that stuff that she taught him and which she taught me at the same time. And I can apply that to his day-to-day functions right now because school is out. So I'm thinking about homeschooling my son. So
Hmm.
I'm learning the techniques from her. But when we
Okay.
jumped into this pandemic,
Hmm.
there was no way that America was going to, all these parents are going to just automatically just be able to teach all their kids when half of them
Right.
at work.
Right.
So
Hmm.
I always, that's what I mean. We just need, at this time in a pandemic, we have to first learn how to be a good parent. All that other
Right.
stuff can follow. Some people didn't do the homeschooling at all because they couldn't, they didn't have computers, they didn't
Hmm.
have the equipment, but I just did the best I could.
Hmm.
And that was enough for my son. Now,
Right.
I know a lot of different family dynamics are different, but when he started the virtual schooling, everything changed because now I learned. I watched her in the Zoom
Hmm.
call teach him how to do math and how to count and how to do all this other stuff because everything. And I didn't know that process, but I learned
Hmm.
the process. So jumping into it, coming
Right.
into that's what I mean. We didn't have
Okay.
to be worried about that. Later on, we can figure it out along the way, but at the beginning we
Hmm.
just needed to learn how to, to keep our kids safe and free from the coronavirus. That's what I was trying to do.
Right. Right. So I think if I heard you correctly, right, it's a you said it a lot, and but some of the key points I'm going to pull out is that, okay, when this happened, suddenly you were being asked to do something that you were not equipped for.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically decide to say, okay, I am going to do a couple of things. First and foremost, I'm going to be his parent and offer him love. Then, in addition to
Mm-hmm.
that, when they came across with the virtual teaching, I'm going to be strategic and intelligent and smart to watch her so then I could then learn some of the techniques that she would utilize. So then, even further on, I can keep using those techniques that I would have learned from her. So I loved how,
Exactly.
you stepped in and you did what you thought was the best thing to do. You utilized your wisdom and said, okay, first and foremost, I would first admit the first step is admission. I am not a teacher. I am not equipped, right, to do this. All right. I'm not going to pretend that I am. So, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do the thing that I know to do the best, which is to love him first. Okay. So I absolutely love that. Right. So Dr. Cook is saying this is a very good point about staying in her lane and being the mom and not the teacher.
And
And
I want to say one more thing
sure.
because I think it's I was telling some of my clients and some of my people parents in my family group
Mhm.
that you have to understand the teachers have kids too.
Right.
So you have to be flexible. So
Mhm.
you're fussing at the teacher for not calling you back or not emailing you, but she has a family too. We're all in this
Right.
together. So I was
Right.
encouraging people to be flexible
Mhm,
because
mhm, mhm.
they're in the same situation we are.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Exactly. And the truth is, everybody was thrown into this like immediately. Like I know in the corporate business structure, they'll talk about BCM, which is basically, or how do we recover? What is our recovery zone? What is our plan that we have in place for
Yeah.
that fire drill if something happens where your location is unavailable or something happens? What is your backup plan? The truth is, we didn't have a backup plan. Okay. It was a plan that was being rolled out in real time. So in some
Mhm.
instances, you just had to be able to be flexible enough and adjust, right?
That's
So,
right.
and also Herbert Jones is saying this is a needed discussion. Absolutely, Herbert. So thanks for watching, guys. All right. So So the other part of the question, because it was a two-part question, right? It was speaking about like how it impacted you, but also now let's talk about the self-care for you, because you spoke about some of these parents have to be working, right? Now you said you were furloughed from your part-time job, but you're now being thrown into the throes of having to help your son in different ways, which you explained. But let's now move a little bit more to the self-care part of it, right? And if feel free to speak on either just yourself or if you're also aware of other parents and how it's impacting them collectively.
And the dynamics again is always different.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of families, they didn't do so well. It was emotionally, mentally, physically just straining on them because I have one son. I have two children, but my older son is out of the home. But they
Right.
have 3 or 4 kids in the house with elementary school, high school, middle school, or whatever. Some in
Mm-hmm.
diapers. That dynamic is going to be totally different than my dynamic.
Right.
So it's just like everybody was just like, but we all had to just support each other,
Right.
basically, because
Right.
as far as self-care, I'm a big promoter of self-care. I couldn't do so much in the house. I mean, my self-care sometimes was getting out of the bedroom and going to the living room with my feet up and Netflixing and chilling, maybe a glass
Hey.
of wine. I mean, I just had to do what I had to do. My hair was a mess. My nails weren't done. My feet looked crazy. My son was looking like Texas Walker Ranger because he started growing a beard and everything. I'm just like, we all looking crazy right now, but everybody else is looking crazy too. So we just had to adapt.
Right.
I needed a
Right.
girlfriend. I needed a perm in my hair. It was looking real crazy, but
Right.
I just did the best I could. And what I
Right.
did, I'm an introvert. So
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, I was in the house, that I was living my best life in the house. And my son is kind of like me because he doesn't have a lot of social skills. So
Right.
we just did the best we could.
Right. Right. Right.
Sometimes self-care was ordering pizza on Wednesday. When the pizza, that was just, if I had flounder and salmon 2 times in a week, I did self-care. It was, it's a simple thing. Just the little things just to treat ourselves and just, while we can. But everybody didn't have that dynamic. Some people had 3 or 4 kids in the house and they were stressed out and, they had to work or they couldn't work. They lost their jobs. They couldn't pay their rent.
Mm-hmm.
Every dynamic was
A little bit
different. And I
different.
just tell people that, in these times, and I still say it, you just have to stay prayed up.
Right.
You really do. And I try to support my community as much as I can. I did 20 or 30 masks to different families that didn't have masks or couldn't afford masks. That was the
Oh
biggest
wow.
thing. Some
Okay.
people just
That's
didn't
nice.
have masks.
Yeah.
They just didn't have it. I just wanted people to be safe.
Right.
Helping out a friend. Me and a couple of my girlfriends, we did toilet paper and toilet tissue runs. If I can
Mm.
grab it for you and we can get the Lysol, we would figure it out and we would make sure each the other one had vitamins and the elderberry and all this airborne stuff. We were trying to get our immune system boosted up. So we just looked out for each other as a community. And that's all you
Okay.
can do at this time. Or we still do that. That's really all you
Right.
can do.
So,
Because I know that people are in stage
Sabrina,
3.
I'm going to jump in right there because you know what? I think what you're just saying is very powerful, right? Because I asked you about self-care for you, and
Mhm.
what you've just done, you've just expanded your self-care in that you're telling me that you help to provide mask and elderberry to the immune system to different members in the community. So you didn't just apply self-care to just you made sure that others had care. And I think one of the biggest things that sometimes I think we tend to overlook
Mhm.
is that the more we give and the more we help others, it really reverbs to us in ways
Yeah.
that is
Mhm.
so I wish sometimes I could like be a scientist and like go inside of you and how do we pull that out to show you evidence, right? Because
Mhm.
they said, right, when people can see something, when they can literally either see it, read it, do the data or something or touch it,
Yes.
something, I don't know.
Mhm.
But and I loved about what you just said, right? Because here it is. I asked you about you. I asked you about self-care. And I'm sure I'm probably a little bit excited, but hey, it is what it is. But I just love that, right? Because it just shows you how much, even though, you are so a consummate, I don't want to say professional because it's not coming from a professional side to me. It's coming from the innate of who you are.
Yeah.
right? Where you are here to help, not just, just yourself and your own son, but you're even going beyond that. So I just love that. And that's why I interrupted you, because I
Oh no,
really
that's
just
fine.
wanted to
That's
bring
fine.
that forward, right? So yeah, as
Yeah.
that's so awesome. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to continue with that, I know I
No, I
interrupted you,
think
but
I
I
think
had
we,
to
we
do that.
tapped on it, for our self
Right.
care, because it's just not for me.
Uh-huh.
This is helping, my mom, helping, people, your neighbors. This is helping the community. We
Right.
don't live in this world alone, and we don't, and I know that when you do stuff for people, it comes back to you. And I just
Mhm.
like to support people. People support me, and I think at this time, with this pandemic, people were doing that. They were paying it forward because like I said before, we're all in this together, and we're still going through it. And I'm in phase one. I don't care what everybody else is. I'm in phase one still.
Yes, I remember I told you I was out yesterday, and you were like, "Girl, you're out there in
I
this
was like, with the
pandemic."
corona?
I did social distance. That's to be clear here.
I'm
Okay.
sure you did.
Oh yes, I sure did. Right. Okay. All right. So I think so. This is a perfect time for me to share with you guys that within on the top of this live, you also see a link where I shared about the 21 day 21. Oh gosh, no, the 14-day challenge. You can make
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you can make it a 21 if you want to, right?
That's
But you
right.
get
That's
at
right.
least you get the live support, right? As a matter of fact, the truth is, make it a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay, make it a
Every day.
lifestyle. You just heard Sabrina just talk about a while ago, just how much she helped her community. And you could see the joy, the light that came on in her face to the point that I had to jump in. I was like, I want some of that, right? So, right, I want some of that, right? So anyway, so this is a perfect time. We are going live in the Women Who Rise in Hope and Confidence every day in the group. We will be going live for 14 days. We are on day 7, but it doesn't really matter. You can jump in now, because remember, we're going to make this a lifetime. So don't have the 14-day ring fence you or
It's
discourage
every
you,
day.
right? It's just literally an everyday thing, a lifetime thing. So guys, you'll see the link above this live. Feel free to join in on the challenge. You do get an email support daily to give you ideas if you run out of ideas to be, grateful for. Because some people say, I say thank you for the same thing every day. Well, guess what? We provide you with email support that gives you ideas of different things that you can be grateful for. Then we also provide you with the live support, but it's within the group. So you definitely have to sign up on that link. You get the gratitude tool that will help you to follow along, right? And then you also have the ability to join the group. So go ahead and tap into that right now, so you too can feel the benefits of what it is like to actually show gratitude, and how what I want you to also eventually recognize, because we're at day 7. That's one of the things that I'm asking you. How are you feeling, right? Because when you express gratitude, it does something to you internally, right? And you want to have those positive emotions and get rid of those negative emotions. So anyway, let's move right on. So some of this I'm about to ask you, you kind of tapped on it a little bit before when we spoke about what are some of the range of thoughts and emotions that you, as well as other parents, as caretakers, have to work through to balance your professional life, along with now what's going on. So we spoke about the personal care, right? And I know you said you were furloughed, but you may have known other parents that are not furloughed, but still have to work to balance in the professional side of their lives. Now having to deal with, as you said, be the teacher for a special needs child or children.
I just think everybody, and this is in general, just mothers in general, parents in
Mhm.
general. I think every parent just wants to make sure that their child has what they need. I
Right.
was furloughed. I was able to be home with my son, and I have my own business, and I'm able to run my business home because it's a home-based business, and
Right.
that was my dynamic. But there's some people, like you said earlier, that were
Mhm.
not furloughed, that had to go to work, then had to come home and figure out the homeschooling. But I think at the end of the day, especially when you're a caregiver, you just want to make sure that your child is happy, has what they need, that they're feeling good, they're not feeling bad. And I think some of that got sidetracked,
Mhm.
especially because a lot of, like, my son had therapy. He had speech therapy and occupational therapy, and he didn't have that for a while. And then when he had it, it was virtual. It's kind of hard to do the virtual, physical therapy when you're on a Zoom call and you got to do the stretching. So I had to be that person. But what about the
Right.
person that works 8 hours a day and maybe has 2 jobs, and maybe they didn't because they were furloughed from one, but maybe had a job all day and then had to do that for their child. A lot of these parents that had special needs children and adults,
Right.
they
Mhm.
had their medical doctor's appointments delayed. I had a couple of them for my son and a couple of them for me too. They were delayed.
Right.
So they were worried about their child's medical needs on top of trying to figure out rent, food, your mortgage, and anything
Mhm.
else, or not to catch the COVID-19 in general. So I think just not just for special needs parents, I think all parents in general were stressed out and worried about that because we want our children and ourselves to be safe, but then life still goes on. I mean, of course,
Mhm.
it's fortunate that, they said the power bill, the power company, the water company, the gas company, all of these things. I think Verizon, because I have Verizon. If you requested a delay in some of your services or paying your bills, they kind of did that. So I think
Mhm.
there were resources out there. Some people didn't know that the resources were available. But then
Right.
what? If you're
Mhm.
still going through it right now and it was only for 90 days, well, we're past 90 days. Now what? People are
Right.
still going through stuff silently. People are depressed. I have
Mhm.
a special needs community and people are inboxing me. They're stressed out. They don't, some people don't want to talk about it in public, but they're
Right.
stressed out. They can't make their rent. They don't know, their phone's cut off.
Mhm.
I reached out to a young lady one day and I said, hey, I haven't seen you a lot, but she said my phone was cut off, but she had a computer and she was
Mhm.
able to still inbox me, but she couldn't, she said she can't, she's worried about that, her phone.
Right. Right.
That's her livelihood. You're in a pandemic and you don't have a telephone. I mean, it's a lot. It was a lot of stress going on, but I think everybody's dynamic is different. People are
Mhm.
worried about a lot of different things. I was fortunate; I wasn't worried about rent. I wasn't worried about my mortgage. I had food, but everybody's dynamic was different.
Right.
And everybody's worries were different. People are worried about services they're not getting. People are worried about their child's medication, going to doctor's appointments or on the telephone. But if
Mhm.
you have my son was hurting really bad, people are scared to take their kids to the emergency room.
Right. It's true.
They're
But I
scared
mean, you're exactly right because you don't even have to be a special needs
in general.
person. It's just in general, you're scared to go to the doctor. I mean, because I, some of the things actually, there was a study that said that a lot of normal crazy accidents that will happen in the summer were not happening right now because people don't want to be in that emergency room. So they're being a little bit more cautious. And I guess I'm sure the parents are probably drumming it in their kids' heads, special needs or not, just in
Yes,
general.
yes,
Do
yes.
not end up at the emergency room because you may not, exactly. So exactly, right. So okay. So
Mhm.
Dr. Cook is saying, he says, so true that self-care um, does include supporting others. It gives a sense of satisfaction and allows us to move in purpose.
That's
So
exactly right.
that is so on point, Dr. Cook. I mean, you couldn't have said it any better, right? So thank you so much for that. And of course, she's also making mention about the challenges, excellent. I keep missing the live, but the value, the emails. Dr. Cook, and just so you know, the lives do stay in the group. So
Mhm.
if you would like to always go back and watch the replay whenever you have a chance to, because sometimes our schedules, it just doesn't match up, right? So that's one of the reasons why I leave them up in there because we can always go back and watch the replay. All righty. So, and you know what? And if you don't get to watch the replay, what I really want you to do is to do the challenge, right? So that's your
Mhm.
challenge. That's it.
That's right.
Accountability. All right. Perfect. All righty. Um, so you were talking about, so you gave us a insight and even on the professional side, along with the responsibilities of even just paying the bill, whether you lost a job or didn't lose a job, etc. But I think since we spoke about resources, right? Let's talk a little bit about what were some of the external as well as the internal resources that was available. So let's do that first. Let's do that question first, and then it's going to lead into something else.
To special needs regarding special needs
Correct.
parents. Oh,
Correct.
there
Yeah.
was, what I shared, and I made a habit, a point of sharing this on a regular basis. When you have a special needs child, most children in the school system have a IEP, which is an individualized educational plan.
Okay.
Well, the school has to follow that IEP. Well, if you're
Mm-hmm.
home, how is the school following it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you're virtual learning and virtual teaching or homeschooling, how
Right.
is that temporarily, how is it being followed? So I think a lot of dynamics got, wasn't done. There's a lot of things that, if my son has a goal to count to 100 and he was
Mm-hmm.
only at 50, and by the end of the school year he's supposed to count to 100, then now what happens? Am I supposed to
Right.
teach him that? So I think that got all that stuff got out of whack a little bit. So, but there was resources about that, and I shared a lot about that in my group. Just because we were out of school, that doesn't mean that the IEP wasn't supposed to be followed. That plan is still in place. And I tell people now, we have to be flexible. It may not work the same way, but that's the law. So that plan was still in place. It's going to look a little bit different. It's going to be taught a little bit different, and we have to be flexible. It's not the school's fault that we're in a pandemic. It's not the principals. It's not the teachers. But we just had to. I always tell people just to be a little bit flexible. But there were a lot of resources. I mean, I live in Virginia, so there were resources for food. I mean, there was times that I've got in my car and went to there's a pizza place not too far from here, and they were giving out pizzas for lunch for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, for kids, you have to bring your kid. They were doing stuff. They were doing free breakfasts. They were doing free lunches. There was a lot of things in different states. It was, it varies that people were doing or trying to do for the community. It was just a matter of if you knew about it or not. So I shared a lot of stuff on my platforms, whether it was Virginia, Georgia, Philadelphia, New Jersey, because I'm from New Jersey. So I always keep up with a lot of stuff in New Jersey. I was just sharing a lot of resources. There was a lot of webinars, There were a lot of people, professional people stepping up, teaching, giving out links of how to help your child read, or how to do this or how to do that you couldn't do if maybe that you didn't have close contact with the teachers or whatever. There was a lot of free stuff that I shared. It's just that you have to be accountable as a parent to click on those buttons, and sometimes you just have to Google. You have to Google it. I did the same thing. There's a lot of things I figured it out myself. I'm connected with a lot of people, so that there's a lot of things going on, and I shared it, but I have to hold myself accountable for my own child's education. And that's why I always promote, be your child's best advocate, because that's what I am. So whether we're in a pandemic or not, we have to be accountable as parents, and don't put all the blame on the teachers in the school system if we're just waiting for them to do everything. We have to do that. That's our child. We have to be accountable to somewhat for some of the things that we were not doing, or just being creative, or, to learn how to pivot. And that's just what I did.
Oh, okay. All right. So if I just to summarize a little bit what you said, you spoke about one being the core thing was being the advocate, your own advocate for your own kid, because first of all, that makes you just wanted to be more resourceful, and Google is your friend, as well as you said that there were other external resources, and of course and having a good amount of contacts, you made sure that you share that not only within your group, but you made sure that there was an accountability, or the ability, at least the option for them to follow through on that learning. I forget the acronym that you use. IEP.
The IEP. It's the individualized education plan. Each child has their own plan. My son's plan does not look like anybody else's plan, because he's unique in his own way.
Okay. Hey, Owen, welcome to our chat today, where we are basically talking about dare to take care of the caretaker. So, alrighty. So I love that, there are these resources available. And I like the idea that you also said, and I said, we have to be our own best advocate, right? Because in being our own best advocate, that empowers us to go out and seek solutions, even if the solutions are not readily available to us. Okay, so let's move on. And I just wanted to now ask you, to our listening audience here, right? For those of you who may have kids who are special needs, or know of someone who has kids that are special needs, how can we then, what are some of the pearls that you would drop for them? You did drop a lot already, all right? Because I heard them, right? But what are some of this, some of the tips, the pearls that you would, offer up to someone who stumbles across this live, who didn't even know about it, but they're like, oh, this topic, works for me. What are some of the tips, wisdoms, pearls that you want to share with them?
Okay, so I have 3. Well, first, this is the biggest one for me.
Okay.
Once, for a special needs parent, acceptance is key. Once I decided to become the parent my son needed me to be, and not the parent I wanted to be, my life changed.
Right. So let's interject with that and just expand on that, because what you just said is a mouthful, right? And it's not a statement, tip, pearl, whatever we want to package that is just very basic and simple. It's a lot what you just said, right? Because society will tell you, okay, and you read all these books, okay, I'm supposed to be this kind of parent. Okay. Well, that changes when suddenly now your child is a special needs child. So what you had envisioned, the nice fairy tale about how it's supposed to be, etc., has now suddenly drastically changed. So that's why I found what you just said powerful, because now you have to shift. Okay, now you have to pivot. And I, quite frankly, I think even pivot is just too much of a weak word. I think shift. Okay. All right, because it's a whole new world that you now have to literally do a complete re-engineering of your mindset and what you thought about what parenthood and what it would look like to you, right? I think just even your level of patience will be tested.
Changed,
Exactly. You have no choice but to, if you want to be a good parent, right? You have no choice. Let me make that clear, right? Because there are different types. So anyway, so if you want to have, I hope in my earring is not causing a problem with this mic. So if you wanted to have, to be that good parent, now you have to know, totally shift, re-engineer your mindset to say, okay, this is not the parenting that I envisioned, dreamed of, read about. Now I have to now adjust to what is in front of me in terms of my child. Here I would be different. How I would become a different parent in terms of my parenting skills. How will I show love to my child in a different way? Where, of course, like one of the things that I know with special needs is that they need, and everybody's different, right? So I'm not making this broad statement, just a few that I do know. They need structure, right? They need consistency. So that's one of the reasons I was like, OMG, when COVID, the quarantine, threw them out of the place they were going to learn in the daytime, wherever, all of a sudden, there's this major and this sudden shift. What happens there? So now as a parent, as you said, you now have to now say, okay, I have a special needs child. So what is my parenting going to look like? So that's one of the reasons I wanted to pull out a little bit more, because what you just said is major, because it's almost a re-engineering. That's why I didn't like pivot. That's too weak a word for me, right? Okay. Am I right though? Tell me.
Am I
you're
right.
You literally have to re-engineer your mindset to say, okay, I got to do things a little bit differently here. I got to work on my patience. I got to work on this, etc., etc. How do I now manage? So, okay.
So you know what? I'm glad you actually jumped in with that, because being a special needs parent from the beginning, you have to just learn this whole new thing when you first get the diagnosis that your son or daughter has anything. Okay, but during this pandemic, it's different because we send our kids to school all day. The kids are in school at least till 2 or 3 o'clock. So mom and dad can do whatever, but now they're in the house with us all day long, and that puts a lot of stress on the children and puts a lot of stress on the parent. And I always tell people, stressed parents can't teach stressed kids. It's just not going to work out good. It's just not. So when I made that statement, I say it to special needs parents that in the COVID-19 pandemic and before that, because once I learned to be a special needs mom and be the mom that my son needed prior to COVID, my life changed, because no one wants to be a special needs parent. Nobody says, "Oh, when I grow up, I want to have a special needs child." Nobody does that. This is something that God put on me. And when it first happened, things have changed now. This is like 20 years ago. My son will be 20 in October. I got a pamphlet, and they told me to follow up my primary. And I'm like, okay, but what is this that you're telling me? I never even heard of cerebral palsy. So what is this? And what am I supposed to do? And how can we fix it? Right. But then when I realized I couldn't fix it, but I was trying to fix it, because I said, I'm going to fix this. But I couldn't fix it. So once I realized that this is what God put in front of me, He's not going to fail me. He's going to give me everything that I need. And He did. He equipped me with everything that I thought I didn't have to be this boy's mom. So, once I accepted that, my life changed, because I was fighting it. I was saying, oh, okay, I'm going to fix it. Oh, yeah, I don't know. They don't know what they're talking about. He's going to be that one child that doesn't have it anymore.
I love it. Right.
So acceptance is key.
Right. Exactly. Right. So,
and then another thing, the second one, I always tell people, don't lose hope, because, just believe in yourself as the child's parent, believe in yourself as, the advocate. We are our child's best advocate. We are our child's We are the best therapists. We know our child better than anybody else. So
Right.
we have to be confident in who we are and whose we are at the same time. Because
Right.
I know that a lot of times, like the doctor told me that Omar wouldn't be able to, when he was first born, he couldn't hear. Well,
Mhm.
he hears fine, but I had to, so you could take a diagnosis, but but your child better than that. I'm not saying
Mhm.
that sometimes you pray and you pray and you pray, and some
Mhm.
things are still there, but God gave me everything I need to deal with everything. He gave me a diagnosis for cerebral palsy at 2.5. Then when he
Mhm.
was 8, he said he was autistic, but I already knew he was autistic. So in my brain, I've already accepted it. Then they said, oh, he has an intellectual disability. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, Lord, what else is left? Like Jesus, but he gave me everything that I need, and that was for the purpose. And
Right.
I say that because if my son wasn't a special needs son, a child with different abilities, I wouldn't
Mhm.
be a special needs empowerment coach. I wouldn't be having a community of special needs parents. I wouldn't be as knowledgeable. I wouldn't have found all the beauty in people
Mhm.
being different, but not less. I wouldn't know that because I never
Right.
grew up and say, "Oh, I want to work with special needs kids." I never did that. That wasn't my plan. That was God's plan.
Right. 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 So,
So,
so in essence, you just said that um, your pain became your purpose.
mhm. Yeah.
Now, to make it clear, I'm not calling your son a pain, right?
No,
I'm
I
just
know.
saying,
No,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
right,
It's the truth, though. I found my purpose through my son's disability, and it's as
right.
simple as that. I did not plan this, but this is what the plan was for me, and
Mhm.
and I'm following his purpose. So I didn't
Right.
want to be a special needs mom, but I'm a great special needs mom, and I mentor other special needs moms. I empower other special needs moms. I have other caregivers. That was the
Right.
plan. I just didn't know that was the plan, but that was the
Yeah.
plan.
Right, 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 right. Yeah. So let me restate it the way you said it. It's like, your special needs son caused you to find your purpose,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. All righty. So you said you had 3. So one more.
Okay, one more. This is what the little thing I say: don't count yourself out. Don't count yourself out. Don't count your child out, because a lot of
Mhm.
times they told me, like I said before, my son couldn't do something and he did it. You know your child the best. Follow your gut. If you think
Right.
that you need a second or third opinion on anything that they're telling you, then you go
Mhm.
with that. Trust
Right, right,
your gut, and don't count yourself out thinking, because I did when I started to want to think about becoming an
right.
entrepreneur. I said, I can't do this because I had all these doctor's appointments. I can't do this because I
Mhm.
had to go. I just made excuses for myself. I will no longer make excuses, because I wanted to go back to school to get a bachelor's degree. And then I said I didn't have anybody to attend to my son. Well, I go online. Check.
Mhm.
Okay, we knocked that out. I can't be an entrepreneur because I really didn't know what it takes, but everybody's online now. Everything is virtual.
I love it. I love it.
So I just found ways to push past all the stuff that I was saying, no, I can't because of
Mhm.
my son, and just trying to figure out ways I can do what I wanted to do and still take care of my child. I mean, it
Right.
may be some late nights. He doesn't
Mhm.
miss appointments. I mean, and I don't know if it's a balance. It's just sometimes I think sometimes I don't have balance. Sometimes I'm a little off, but I
Right.
figure it out. I have to write everything down. I have to journal everything. I put sticky notes everywhere to remember his appointments,
Right.
and all that stuff. But it works. If you want
Mhm.
something bad enough, it
It
works.
will
And
work.
I know
It
that
will.
God gave me this purpose, and He gave me, there's a reason why that I'm Omar's mom, and I'm
Mhm.
just gonna pray and consult with Him, and He's gonna guide me to whatever I need to do.
Right. And so I love everything that you just said. And I hope our listening audience, because one of the reasons for talking about this is this, okay, how do you then help to remain hopeful? And how do you continue to be confident in unfamiliar territory, in territory that may not allow you to be able to, have the level of self-care? Because I'm sure usually when your, child went out to school, or wherever they were going in that daytime, that would give you some level of me time.
Yes,
However, you choose to invest that me time, whether it be in your business or for some level of self-care, it's up to you, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
that disappeared when now you now have to, like the rest of the world, but in a different way, in terms of, because the child may be special needs. So hopefully, guys, for those of you who have been listening and who will watch the replay, that we have been speaking about, dare to take care of the caretaker, because at the end of the day, they may be silent sufferers out there, as Sabrina does share, that there are people who were silent, who are not comfortable talking about it. And some of them were silent because they are losing hope and they were probably getting depressed, right? But there was also those who were silent because their phone were cut off, right? Because they obviously lost finances, lost resources. So as you can see, you are being silent by the physical need or sometimes by the emotional need, right? So I hope now, listening to Sabrina, you're now able to understand that if you're one of those, or you know someone who are experiencing those kind of situations where they're thrown into now having to suddenly take care of a special needs child in terms of the teaching. And I am really, really happy for the nuggets that you have shared, because while, you just gave 3 right here, but throughout the entire live, you gave a lot of powerful nuggets. And I hope you guys, where you're listening to it, that you noted them down, and that, if you wanted to reach out to Sabrina, feel free. She's going to obviously say her information shortly, but she'll also will be dropping in the comments ways to get in contact with her if you need it, because let's face it, she is, as you could hear earlier, a great and awesome resource to be able to help you to stay hopeful and ultimately impact your confidence in your current situation, as well as going forward. And as I shared with you again, I will let you know about the 14-day gratitude challenge. Go ahead and take it, because gratitude allows you to be more hopeful. Gratitude allows you to have more positive emotions and ultimately feel happier. If you feel happier, you'll be a better parent to your kids, right? Special needs or not. Right. So, So Sabrina, what I'm going to do is just ask you to share, how can the listening audience get in contact with you?
Okay, I'm going to put it below as well, but I have a special needs private group, and that's private because people are sharing, stuff about their kids and their families, and I just want to respect everybody's privacy. It's called the Especially Love Group, Especially Love Special Needs Parents Group. And I'll put the link down below in the comments. And I have a special needs empowerment page that you can like and follow. It's Sabrina Thomas, Special Needs Empowerment Coach page. And every day I'm sharing page. I'm empowering moms, women, men in general. Just, and I always also talk about gratitude. This month actually is August. August is my month of gratitude. So I'll put the information below.
I didn't catch it. August is what?
August is my month of gratitude, so I'm sharing gratitude, speaking about gratitude all month.
Oh my gosh, so we're in alignment here, huh?
Yes, we are in alignment, girl. Awesome, right? We're Jersey girls. We're in alignment.
I remember when I heard you were from Jersey, I was like, okay. So,
yeah.
All righty. So, all right, guys. So as I said, I hope I do see a lot of people who have joined on as we're coming towards the end. But guess what, guys? There will always be the replay. So you are more than welcome to go, listen to the replay, because a matter of fact, I am going to espouse you to do it. I am going to encourage you to do it, because she drops so much great information in terms of how you can go ahead and take care of yourself, readjust, re-engineer yourself in terms of your mindset, right? Because a lot of it was some really good mindset work that you had to do. If you notice, I said, re-engineer your mindset, right? And in doing all these things, it helps to work on the inner you. Your mind, your brain is a powerful, resource, right? And gladly it believes what we tell it. So go ahead and tell it some of the things that Sabrina just shared with you. So that is going to bring us towards the end of our live today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Again, my name is Judy Ann Chung. I am your Brilliance Activator, your confidence, leadership, life coach, as well as speaker. And I help women like you to rebuild your hope, strengthen your confidence, activate your brilliance, and ultimately soar. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. One thing just popped in my head. I thought I was finished. Just one thing. You just said you also refer to fathers. We spoke about mostly, we didn't really say mothers, but because we're women, we naturally But also for the men that are listening, yes, I left you to the last. I am so sorry. My humble apologies.
We love and need you, men.
Exactly, but you're parents too, right? And you're in this, right? As a matter of fact, when I chose the graphic, I purposely included men because they're also parents too. So,
Yes. Mhm.
so listen, we didn't forget about you. We know you're part of the process, and the tips, the pearls, and everything that she shared are also applicable to you. So I do hope that you too will take advantage of them as needed. And again, her contact information will be in the comments section shortly. So take care, guys, and thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now. Sabrina, thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.